And today we're going to do a tutorial on wild flowers. So this is my practice sheet, and I actually did this. It was my first time doing it. I decided let's just go for it. Let's record the video. And I kind of ended up not liking it too much. So here's me doing this one again. And I'm just going to switch up the kind of flowers I did. I just tried to do them separately to kind of challenge you guys to kind of take the methods that I'm showing you and kind of do your own composition, but I didn't quite like it, how it looked. So here we are going to do it again, and this time I'm going to put a little more thought into the composition. And yeah, so here we go. I will be using a couple of different colors, so as I go along I will try and mention them to you, or you can just use the next thing that's closest to it. Because I have my palette here, which is full of colors that are kind of pre-mixed already. So I'm kind of going to just draw from that and use it. So it's a combination of my Daniel Smith and St. Petersburg for colors. For brushes, I am going to be using my number 8 Princeton, my number 4 Silver Black Velvet, and I have these two on standby, which is the Squirrel Mop brush in the 1 and the Silver Black Velvet in the 8. Okay, so let's just get started. I will probably do about 3 different styles to kind of show you a few different loose, loose, delicate wild florals that we could do. The first one, so I'm going to start off with using the number 8. We'll start off by doing the floral first and then drawing in the stem. And so for this first one, I'm going to be using my quinacridone rose, which is like the pinky color that I have from the Daniel Smith. And I have some mixed over here, so I'm just going to get some of that. And we'll start off with that first. And so again, I'm using my number 8. So we'll start that one in the middle. And for this, what I'm essentially doing is I am going to start off. So this one will be kind of very similar to a, lavender. So we're going to start off with tiny strokes at the top. And then we'll do some bigger ones here. And then I'm just going to add just random strokes and keep it loose, keep it light. I'm just going to get in a little bit more of the color and just kind of dab it in certain areas. Then I'm going to go in, take my number 8, and I'm just going to add some water to these bits and just emphasizing the color that I've already placed in. Feel free to add some dots as you kind of go along to kind of give it a nice loosey look, because these are the loose florals that we're kind of going for. And we're just adding, literally it's just a bunch of strokes that you're doing, and pull in the water and the color as best as you can, because the next thing we're doing is we're going to go in with the green and tie this in together. All right, so I'm just spreading it out as best as I can and trying to make it look as loose as possible. I'm adding some extra color to the tip, to the edges. And then we're going to use the number 4. And I just have some green. I'm going to use my green from the St. Petersburg, and I'm just going to draw in the line, the stem rather. And you just want to do it freehand, obviously. You don't really have any other choice. Not that you can use a ruler or anything. And I'm also going to use a bit of my umber, which is like the brownish green, and just give it a little bit of a darker feel to it. And then I'm going to go back in with my number 8 and just kind of smoothen it out. Smoothen the green out because I want it to be nice and loose and kind of fade off at the bottom. And then just going to go back in and add a more of that green. And then we'll do some leaves. And for the leaves, I'm literally going to get a darker color of the green and just from using my tip, pressing down, have it join in with your stem. And then I'm just going to highlight the tips to be darker. And I'm going to do another one. There we go. And then we'll do one on the other side too. And so for that, I will draw it from here on this side using the tip, pressing down, kind of going in there. There we go. And I'm just going to taper the edge of the leaf. There we go. I'm just going to leave it at that. It became a little bit too thick, but you know what? We're not going to stress it too much because this is supposed to be that nice loose floral, so we're just going to kind of keep it light that way. What you can do is, because these have little fibers, like green looking fiber looking things, so we're just going to kind of add some there. And I'm just using very light bit of color to kind of lightly draw on these green linear tendrils. I guess they could be like tendrils. And why not make them be a little bit flowy? So using your tip, get it nice and thin at the end and then kind of just go out. And then maybe just a couple from the pink flower as well. All right, and there we go. So that's one. And then the next one we're going to do is going to be like a nice pretty blue, cornflower blue. And this one will have it's going to be the one that kind of flows to the side or kind of curves to the side. So for this, I am going to just wash off some of the quinacridone rose that I have on this brush, the number 8 Princeton. I'm going to get some of my blue, which is going to be like either the Colbet or the ultramarine blue from St. Petersburg, and I'm just mixing some of that onto my brush, getting it onto my palette. And once I have that, we're doing the same technique. So we're laying on a dark color, and then we're going to take the other brush with just water and smoothen it out. So for this one, we need a little bit of direction. So I'm just going to show you what that looks like. So we'll have the leaf here, and then this, actually, yeah, let's have the leaf this way, and then have this kind of flow out this way, and then you have a couple of the flowers coming out like in bells. And we'll just do like 3. All right, so I'm going to try one thing. What I will do is I will just wet some of this area, just where I've drawn the florals, and then I will go in with my blue and create these bell-like shapes, but thin and long. And then I'm just going to take this brush back again. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to smoothen out some of these edges to make it a little more looser looking. And then giving that bell like a nice bottom flare, because that's what these have. Same thing here. And feel free to kind of leave white space, because that will help as well. Same thing over here. And then what I'm going to do over here is I've just done the outline. I'm just going to go in taking water and give it a light outline to show that this is a flower. We have the tapering ones at the edge. And remember your little dots if you can. And now what I'll do is I'll take some of my darker blue, or actually even a purple, and just add it at certain areas here. So that we have a nice two-tone kind of effect happening. And then once I have that happening, I'm just going to take my brush, get some of my green, and this is my number 4 brush that I'm using. And again, I like the warmer green for this, so I'm mixing some umber into my regular green, and I want to make sure that it's nice and like there's a fair enough amount of water on this brush, and have that nice seepage of green flowing into the blue, and then kind of lightly draw on the direction of this floral stem. And yep, just gonna keep going with it. I'm adding a tad bit of a darker green, and for that I'm just using more of the, I'm adding the darker green in the areas where the stems meet for the florals. And then I'm going to create my leaf. So the leaf is like a long leaf just off to the side, so we'll just do like using the tip, press it down, and then kind of let it go. And then we can just use the number 8 brush and just smoothen it out so it has the same soft end to it. And there we go, we have a nice loose floral. What I will also do is, using this, I'm just going to take some of the leftover blue and just add, actually before I do that, I'll just add some water droplets to kind of indicate the loosey effect of this. And then once I have that, I'm just using the tip of my brush, I'm dabbing on a very slight amount of blue. I don't want too much water on this brush, but I want some of the blue, so that now when I go back into this area where I have dabbed on water, I can get some nice pale blue droplets almost, and make it look damp almost, I guess, or just like a fresh, messy or loose yeah, floral. And I'm just gonna let that dry. It'll dry off nicely. We should probably sort of do the same thing here just to kind of keep the same theme going, but I'll leave that to you guys. So we'll do one more, and for this one we will do, again, we'll start off with the florals first and then go off into the stem. So for this one, we'll do, oh, what color should we make this? We should do a nice yellow. So let's do the yellow with the white florals, with the white petals. I don't know what those are called, but we'll start off with so for the petals, I want to use, let me just quickly do some quick assessing. I want to use like a light, either a very pale blue or like a Payne's gray to kind of show and indicate white, or we can use a light brown, but I think I'm going to go with the blue just because I think it's prettier. So first things first, we will lay down the petals, and they're just going to be very simply laid down. So what we're simply laid down, yes, obviously. They are 5 petals, I believe, but again, we don't have to kind of follow that since it's a rough drawing, painting. So we're just having it facing upwards and the petals are down, and we're just lightly doing these C kind of motions where the center is going to be right here. So once we have that, I'm just brushing off some of the color, water, and just with water on the brush, I'm going to try and add some extra detail to this because I want to leave as much white space as you can as well, but I want to also make it seem more white than blue. So I'm going to let that dry, and it'll dry off lighter, and now we'll do the centers, which is going to be yellow. And I'm just taking my regular yellow from Daniel Smith, and I'm just going to add that in the center here. And I've touched some of the edges, and if you feel like it's too yellow, what I've done is I've added a couple of dots over the top so it doesn't touch the yellow immediately. And then I'm just taking some orange, like a light orange, and I'm going to dab that into the yellow because this might be a bit too much of a fluorescent yellow for this floral. So we're just gonna add a couple of dabs to give it that nice pointillism kind of center. There we go. And then we can do the stem. And so for the stem, again, I'm taking one of my greens, and I'm just going to do a very light, these are dry I think for the most part, a very light version of it kind of just coming down. And once I have that, so I'm having it be slightly thicker at the bottom, I'm just going to add another stem, but I want the stem to be higher, so I'm just going to make this thing right here a leaf. So I'm taking a slightly like I'm adding a little bit of that umber green that I have, and I'm just going to create a leaf, but like a very loose one, so like tapering off and just kind of coming down here and adding that darker shade of green to the center of this. Okay, now once I have that happening, I'm going to go back to adding that extra one for another branch. And I think it looks like we could thicken this just a tad bit. And then we're going to do the same, make the same effort in terms of creating that other flower. So this one will have a green bottom to it, so you can kind of see the top, or the florals are at the top kind of flaring out. So I'm using a little bit of that blue on my brush with a lot of water, And I'm just going to add kind of these dabs of color that are just going out but not fully formed into a shape. And this seems to be slightly darker blue, but what you can also do is just take your take your paper towel and just dab off the excess blue, just making sure that you don't repaint the area. Or you can just take your brush, and if you're careful enough, just kind of shave off some of the blue. And by shave, I mean just like brush it off. And then, yep, and then you're good to go. And I'm just gonna add a couple of hints of the orange kind of there. And then leave it at that. I don't want it on top of this blue, so I'm just going to take that off, or try to. There we go, and just leave it at that. You don't want to overdo things too much. Okay, and I think maybe this green was a bit too dark, but that's okay. We're just trying things out. It's all about getting that right consistency. And let's do one more and create some leaves, and then I think we are good. And then you guys can tell me what you guys thought of this tutorial, if you liked it. I seem to be in a very wild floral delicate stage right now since I've come back from the cottage, and it just seems very very much so because of the drive back home. There were quite a few different florals that we kind of saw along the way, and it was really cute. So I'm just adding a couple of dainty leaves here to this. It's a different variation of green, but that's totally okay. You want to get different colors involved and kind of make your floral painting just that much more dimensional in terms of color. So never think that there's too much green. I'm just touching up certain areas, because once it dries you kind of get a better idea of what things look like and where things are. So if you ever need to touch things up. All right, so we're doing this other stem and then we are good. So I'm just going to do one over here, and it's not fully touching. Just perfecting this. Yeah, okay. So back to the blue that we have going on, and we're going to do the same thing that I did for the previous one up there. I'm just laying down petals that are facing downwards in like a C motion kind of, and I'm leaving the center fairly open and leave white space in between, and just try and go back in with water and just smoothen out the blue so it's like a nice gradient blue. Then I'm going to go in with my yellow, and I'm just going to add a little bit of yellow. And then once I have that yellow in, I'm just taking in a little bit of an orangey yellow, and I'm going to go in and do some more pointillism kind of stuff. That's why the number 4 brush is good. And this is why I also kind of like the squirrel mop brush, because their ends are quite pointed and it's just nicer. Okay, so this is good. I like how these are. I hope you guys enjoyed this. Let me know in the comments what you guys thought. You can use this again to create some really nice pretty florals, and yeah, hope you guys enjoyed it. Thanks so much for watching, guys. And if you found this helpful, please share this in your social media channels, and yeah, just tag me. I so appreciate all of you guys sending me your work on Instagram and Facebook. I love seeing it, so please do continue doing that. And yeah, we will chat soon. Thanks, guys. Bye.